Type hinting in Python.
Welcome to another video on smart architectural programming. My name is Mohammed and coding alongside me.
Is George, and today we'll be going over type hinting in Python. Go ahead, Mohammed.
So when we talk about the topic called type hinting, in retrospect, most Python developers are not familiar with type hinting because type hinting is a specific concept that's more related to more fundamental sort of languages like C and Java, where you need to exactly specify in variables what sort of type of variable that is or what type of data that is, right? To when you're writing your code out. As Python is a more dynamically typed language, you don't need to specify whether when you're writing a variable whether it's a string, integer, float, or a bool, because Python automatically goes over your code and identifies what data type that specific data type is. But as you grow as a professional programmer or as you work in a professional environment as a Python developer, readability of code, it becomes a very important aspect to what you do, because you'll be working in teams or in large teams, and you'll be writing code in hundreds or even thousands of lines long code. At that time, not only would you be reading other people's code, but other people would need to read your code. And at that point, readability of code is a very, very huge issue. And to make sure that the code is readable, some environments institute as a Python developer for you to do type hinting, while others may not. But ultimately, for you to develop as a good programmer, you need to institute certain good habits, and type hinting in Python is one of those good habits. This topic was brought in mostly in context to a question that was asked to us, that whether we can use type hinting in Python, which contains both lists and tuples at the same time. Now that is one of the questions that was asked in our comments, and again, taking advantage of of this conversation, I'll again emphasize how important your comments are in the video. So please make sure that you let us know. Hit that like button. Let us know exactly what topics are concerned about in Python or any other programming language, and we'll try our best to address those topics. So let's move on to type hinting. Type hinting in Python is a way to provide information about expected types of variables, functions, parameters, return values in our code. Unlike other languages where type hinting is enforced at runtime, so in C, we'll define a variable. We say int equals to int space s equals to the value of the variable, and we can only put in an int variable there. That this is because in other programming languages like C, at runtime, type hinting is enforced. The code enforces that if you specified that this is a int variable, it must be an int variable. But that is not the case in Python, which makes the practicality or the usability of type hinting in Python not that relevant. But again, it helps people identify immediately when they're looking through your code what sort of variable is that variable or data type is being used in that code, right? So based on that, we can understand that it's a form of documentation. Type hinting is a form of documentation that is used by developers to understand and analyze code more effectively within the context of Python. Python type hints are introduced using the colon syntax, and it's followed by the specified type of that variable, data, what have you. They are usually placed in function signatures, variable annotations, and doc strings. And in specific, recently, post Python 3.5, the typing module has been introduced, which provides us many tools that we can use to work more effectively with type hinting in Python. So with all concepts that we went through in this channel, we need to actually internalize the concept. We first need to actually see, or we need to see the coded form of that concept on our interface. So when you look at our screen right now, we have our first file, variable type.py, open. This contains 4 variable declarations in Python. But you'll notice there's something unique about these variable declarations. And that different aspect within this variable declaration is basically type hinting. So on line 1, you'll notice we have a variable called name. It has a colon next to it. As you mentioned, type hinting is done with a colon, space, what this value data type is. It's in string, so equals to John. That's a string. Similarly, age, colon, int, which is 25, height, colon, float, which is 175.5, and is student bool false. Now, I would like you to take a minute and look over all of these variable declarations, because these are just not normal variable declarations, but variable declarations with type baked into them. You'll notice first thing that you can immediately identify what the data type for the variable is. That means that readability has been improved. Two, I want you to get more familiar with the syntax. Pause the screen, get more familiar with the syntax, because as we move forward, I'm not going to focus on the syntactical aspect of type hinting anymore. More so, I will be focusing on the concept and its placement. So get a feel for it, and I'll be moving on. Hopefully, you have at this point paused the screen and gotten yourself familiar with the syntax of type hinting. The second way we can, like the second expression of type hinting to get more familiar with the second situation, is that how type hinting can be used within function parameters. So if we go to our file called functype.py, we'll see a function declaration 2 lines long, because we're not focusing on the function activity, rather we're focusing on how type hinting can be used in functions. You'll notice on the first line, along with the function name, within the brackets where we usually put in our input variables to a function, you'll notice that input variables uh, uh, in this function have been syntactically adjusted to add type hinting to it. Again, I won't go over the syntax as you've covered it before, but you'll notice here that with the variable name, which is a, we've added colon and the data type that's this input is going to be. Similarly, if you go to letter B, that's the same case as well. We've used colon and what data type B needs to be, or like is basically. We can break these rules, but that is the intent. Like we're telling a third party, because let's suppose that you're a programmer, right? You know exactly, you have defined 10 to 15 functions for a piece of code working in with your team. Now, you know exactly what each of those functions takes in and what each of those functions output, right?